going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I'm Nick, and I am joined, as always, with Keelan. How you doing, bud?
What's going on, brother? I'm doing all right over here. I can't complain too much. Wish I had a couple of glowing fingers, but we'll get into that later.
Awesome. Yeah. And we're hoping that you guys are having a good evening as well, or whenever you're checking us out. We hope that you're having a great one. And thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to give us a thumbs up and a subscription after this video if you think that we have earned it from you. It would really help our channel out. We're trying to grow out our YouTube page, and we can't do it without your help. So consider. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 2022 release. I believe it just came out on October 19th of The School for Good and Evil. Came out on Netflix. It is directed by Paul Feig, and it stars lots of different people. There's Kit Young, Sophia Ann Caruso, Kate Blanchett, Liam Woon, Lawrence Fishburne, Sophia Wiley. We also have Michelle Yeoh, among some other notable characters, but mainly a younger cast. And this movie is kind of, I don't know if I could tell you, it's kind of a Harry Potter ripoff, but not in a bad way. But I won't get too deep into my first impressions because we got to get Keelan's first opinions first. But yeah, Keelan, what did you think about School for Good and Evil?
The School for Good and Evil. I actually was surprised by this movie. When I first saw it, I'll go through the steps of how I was introduced to it first. So when I first seen it, I saw Kerry Washington in a princess gown, and I was automatically thinking fairy tale princess. She's like a fairy godmother. Nope, over it. Scroll right past it. And then I heard it mentioned, and I was told it was decent, and I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm gonna watch the trailer. So the next time I was on Netflix, I scrolled through and I put it on my list to check it out later. And then I didn't do that. And then you said you wanted to cover it for today. I watched all the trailers, and each trailer gave me a different version or a different feeling of what I thought this movie was gonna be. But they all circled around two best friends. And my first impressions once I got through that and I actually saw the movie, I'm thinking, yeah, it's a good buddy flick. It's a real good best friend coming of age type of a movie. Not what I expected from most of the trailers, but definitely knew it was going to be best friend esque. But I liked it. I didn't dislike it. Reminiscent of a lot more than just Harry Potter, if I'm being honest. But all of the elements that made you think of something that you may have seen before are the things that kept you interested, and they just added a couple more things to that. Whether you like the things they added or not is different. But yeah, I enjoyed the magical aspect of this. If I'm being honest, I didn't expect it to be so heavy with the magic. Um, and I will say that in my first impressions, it was almost like a Yu-Gi-Oh showdown for about 30% of the movie, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mad about that. Well, I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh would be the right reference, but you understand what I mean. That mystical, magical. I mean, it could have been a Shaolin showdown, just all out fighting, pretty much throwing what
Mm-hmm.
you got at them. And that's man. So let's go with Shaolin showdown because that's more along the realm of throwing what you got. But and that's one thing I did like about this was it wasn't just anchored into, oh hey, we're just gonna have this one type of magic or this one type of being. Like they tried to give you the variety of elements. But yeah, that's my first impressions. Did I love it? No. That's the last thing I'm going to say on my first impression.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know what to expect when I saw this. It was trending on Netflix. We needed something new to watch, and I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. I initially thought it was 2 hours. Then, for some reason, I didn't read that right because it's 2 hours and 37 minutes. So that's a problem. because it's too long in my opinion. Interestingly enough, this is based on a book series, and I do
Right.
believe there might be an animation as well, or maybe there are illustrations that come with the book. So there's
Mm,
already sort of element designs to this, and the story is already fleshed out. Now, this is geared towards a younger audience, which
yeah.
I would say is like, late teens, early 20s, young adult sort of stuff, which isn't terrible. I was pretty surprised by it. I didn't hate it. I didn't feel too old to watch it, although I was pretty close. Um, but I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was funny. I thought it had some good heart. There are some decent storytelling elements in this as well that we'll get into a little bit later that I thought were kind of good. The fantasy was fun, which is something that, man, I mean, if we look at something like Rings of Power, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of fun fantasy in that. So it's nice to see fun fantasy and sort of creative takes on things. And yeah, it's not exactly a Harry Potter ripoff, but to me, it feels a little bit more like if Harry Potter met Sky High. Do you remember that movie, Sky
Yes,
High?
yes, Sky
Yeah.
High. Actually, and the fight scenes actually reminded me a lot of that, the Sky High
Hmm.
fight scenes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kept going to all the animation stuff I know, but the Sky High fight scenes is exactly what that reminded me of.
Yeah. So this movie definitely gave me feel like vibes of Harry Potter meets Sky High, which was not bad. It's not bad. It's geared towards younger adults, so there are elements of it that I didn't necessarily feel so connected to, but I could see where kids would like this or young adults would like this. And yeah, pleasantly surprised. Is it amazing? No. It kind of falls apart at the end and drags on a little bit too long. Um, so yeah, it's not stellar, but it's not it's not a terrible flick. We've seen a lot of really bad movies, so
Let's be careful. There may be a movie named Stellar. I know there's a movie named Interstellar.
yes, it's not Interstellar or Stellar, so don't worry about that. Um, but yeah, I think it was decent. It's a decent flick. I think it might be a kind of a fun, maybe family movie. Maybe if you have like kids that are like 10 or 11, might be
Uh,
okay for them to watch.
mm,
It might be a little scary though, huh?
yeah, I'm
Because kids
thinking this would
die.
be like a teen, preteen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I would say 13 and older. 12 at the maybe 12 and older.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Some suggestive elements, but
I
mostly
forgot.
because of the magical elements and things like that. But
Yeah.
and I'm thinking based on the way they break down the ratings, not really my personal preference.
Yeah, and there's a lot of more scary aspects to this
Hmm.
world than you would find in Harry Potter. So
Oh
yeah, I
yeah,
get that.
yeah, that's for sure.
It's definitely
A
darker.
7-year-old could watch Harry Potter and they wouldn't really. They might jump, but that's about it. 7-year-old
Mhm.
watches this, they're gonna have a nightmare or two.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if we want to go through the whole story for this. It's kind of long,
Yeah, I
and
don't think we need to.
I think we could just hit some of the high points, some of the things that we liked. I'll give a quick rundown of the synopsis so that
Yeah.
our audience knows what it's about.
Right. I mean,
Um,
for sure. The just quickly about it. The title is pretty easy to help you get into what we're getting into, what this is all about. The
mhm.
School for Good and Evil. It's literally a story about good and evil. Um, let's just say that it's not good or evil. It's not good versus evil. It's good and evil.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's an overarching sort of idea in
Hmm.
this movie for sure. But basically, it surrounds these two friends, and I've already forgotten their names: Sophia and
Agatha.
Agnes.
Agatha.
Agatha, sorry, Sophia and Agatha, who live in this very I don't know. It felt like Monty Python in like one of their Holy Grail sketches or something, but it's supposed to be a medieval sort of town, but a medieval town that's separated from the magical elements of fantasy. So they don't have magic in their town, but there is this magical world. And so Sophia and Agatha are kind of misfits, but they've been fast friends since forever. And they both get whisked away into this world where there's a school for magic users that are good and evil that trains them to be either heroes and princesses or villains. Um, And you see Agatha is more kind of like in the beginning, she's leaning more towards the witch or the dark side, and Sophia is very much about wanting to be a fairy tale princess.
Right.
And the snafu happens when they are dropped off at the opposite schools and they are not allowed to change. So Sophia, wanting to be a princess, gets dropped into the school for evil, and Agatha, who more aligned with maybe the darker stuff, gets dropped into the school for the good. And everything kind of ensues from there, and you get this story of them trying to escape this world and what they have to do in order to escape it. There's also sort of an ancient evil guy that's puppeting the strings in the background that we can talk about. But
apparently the story is kind of supposed to really be about him and his brother.
It kind of is. Yeah, right. Exactly. But yeah, I did want to point out that Lawrence Fishburne is billed in this movie, but it's very clear that he did not shoot any of his scenes with anybody else. It's just...
They saw Larry.
No, there was one point where he was in the scene and they walk right by him and you could see the close clip. They didn't even like it was just two graphics laid over each other. So.
No, I get you. It's funny. I noted that, excuse me, from his very first scene. When he comes into the hall with all the kids and all of them, and it's that long shadow shot.
Right.
And then from the shadow shot, you kind of get this close-up shot where you see them, but you still can't really make him out.
Right.
And then you get the face shot, and I was like,
and it's just him. No. Nobody's around him.
No, right. And it's like the right here
shot. Very close. Know? Yeah. Yeah. Tight, and close.
Immediately I went like this. Oh, Larry. That's what I promise you. Like, I'm not even being funny. That's when I was like, not Lawrence Fishburne.
He phoned it in. He phoned
it in. You know what? Get your check, Lawrence. I ain't mad, man.
That's fair.
Mr. Fishburne.
Right. Right.
Like, you know what? Let's call it what it is. You can pull those kind of rank calls when you have exactly that rank.
Yeah. I mean, he's getting paid for it. And I'm sure he just had to go, somewhere for a day and stand in front of a green wall.
Well, nowadays probably a blue screen. But,
Yeah, either way. He had to wear a costume for a day and stand there and deliver a few lines, and he got paid. So there you go.
And he got a fresh shave.
Yeah, I think he's pretty happy about it. That's for sure. What I did find was kind of cool about this movie is how it was actually pretty funny. I found myself laughing a few times at this movie, and I didn't necessarily think I would.
Would you think? Because I was thinking some of the laughs were ironic.
I don't know if it was ironic. I just think that there were some earnest laughs there. I'm trying to think of something that was like really stood out, but I think Gregor was pretty funny.
Right. The whole Gregor situation was funny and sad.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I didn't expect that to be as sad as it was. It was like, oh man, like that was sad. But honestly, everything with Tedros was pure comedy for me.
Yeah, he was pretty funny too.
Pure comedy, and it was the spin of the high school jock dude, and then also that I want to mention that the fact that they kept this in that suspended, not quite high school, not quite adulthood element type of area, and that's where I understand where you were talking about the early 20s category. Because that is that's kind of college, essentially. Yeah. It's like you kind of still get to do a lot of childish shit, but at the end of the day, if you step on the wrong toe, somebody gonna remind you real fast, hey, you're not a kid no more.
Yeah, and I think that this movie definitely plays up those classic high school elements. I mean, you have the school of evil. They're all goths. They're all dressed in super gothic clothing. Everybody's wearing black.
Little angels.
Yeah, and then the school for the good, everybody's in giant poofy dresses, and the men all wear like tunics and stuff like that.
The revolution,
right? Yes, exactly. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a fun little way of stylizing things that did kind of make you feel a little bit more like this is a school, because you have the rejects and then you have the popular kids. And I think they did that pretty well.
Yes, no, I definitely think all of the character to me, the character breakdown all the way around was done well. All of the associations, good and bad, negative, positive, characters that disliked each other, characters that liked each other. A lot of that actually was pretty seamless. It's weird because I don't. Those are kind of the things I don't tend to care about in these type of movies, right?
Mm,
It's like the character association with the background characters because those things don't really propel, excuse me, the story, but they are funny in context, right?
mm,
But in this, it's like they were funny in context, but they actually meant something to the actual narrative of the story. Like when you paid attention to how certain people in the background moved, or going back to Gregor, you meet a background character like Gregor, who's very clearly a background character. So it's like, all right, what are we going to learn from him?
mm.
You know, I
Yeah.
think that was done very well for a movie that, again, as you said already, kind of really isn't made for our age group, but could still be understood by us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there was some, again, as a lot of funny points in this movie. I think Sophia is actually one of the funnier characters in this movie. And
Mm.
her turn to the dark side was pretty funny, especially
Oh,
when she started having the
the ooh,
when
I'm
she-
sexies.
yeah, that part. And then when she turned into a hag, and it's just like her hag face, but then she still has like a young body. So it just looks so ridiculous.
Listen, the height difference between okay, I have to actually give this movie credit because I talk a lot about how they put in this effort to make actors and people look like they're the same height when people are
Mm,
drastically different heights in real life. This movie made an effort to ensure we understood there was a big size difference between Sophia and Sophia. Just had to say that because they're both named Sophia. But
mm.
Sophie and Agatha.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
in
yeah.
that hag
Sophie's
scene,
tiny.
yeah, in that hag scene, you really got to understand, like, no, 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 this isn't acting. The person who's playing this character is actually a small person,
Hmm.
and they're utilizing their size to make their character that much more sinister because she made it look as if her character also was shrinking with the more negative things she did with her posturing and her body language. She made herself look even smaller. And I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh wow, that was very cleverly done." Simultaneously, you had Agatha's character who, she was more broad shouldered. She started to have her chin a lot higher, and
Hmm.
you started to note like, "Wow, she's pretty tall."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even just walking around when she would be next to Tedros, it was like, "Is she the same size as this dude?" Like she didn't seem the same size as him. Is she growing? So now you're asking those questions. Is there something in the emotional connections between them and their powers that also changes their side, or at least I started having those questions. But then I realized it was just their acting. Like, wow, they're doing a very good posturing job, which of course I had to dive a little bit and like, oh, they both have done stage work. That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It does make sense, and I think Agatha and Sophie do a really good job. I think that their chemistry is nice. It's nice
Mm.
that it's sweet and it's not like I thought they were going to veer into the romantic angle with them, and I think it's nice that they just kept it as like the purity of just true
Just
friendship,
be friends.
you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
I think that that's really sweet, and
Yeah.
it's a
Um,
nice story for people.
they gave me also the Sophie and Agatha characters gave me the vibe of in Buffy the Netflix series. There is a
I didn't
character
even
named
know there was
Agatha.
a Netflix series.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty good actually. Buffy the Netflix series, there's a character, I want to say her name is Agatha or Agnes. Agatha Harkless. Anyway, I want to say that's her name. Like I believe that's
That's
Agatha.
from WandaVision.
No, no. Oh, you're right. That is.
Yeah,
I
Agatha
want to say
Harkness.
maybe I was watching at the same time. Either way, there is a character. I want to say her name is Agatha as well. She and Buffy kind of have the same relationship that these two have at the end, though. So
Mm,
they kind of start as total enemies, and near the end, they kind of become like really good. They're just polar opposites.
mm,
Even though Buffy is, the spawn of Satan and all of that kind of stuff. Um, I got a lot of the friendship camaraderie, right? As they started having that in that show, I got that through this entire movie out of the two characters for Agatha and Sophie. It's it goes back to back in the day. You ever notice you could tell that people actually liked each other when they were in films and stuff together,
Hmm.
and then you could
Yeah.
tell when they were just doing a job.
Right.
Um, just go look at what the Rat Pack or Rat Race or both. In fact, um, and a lot of the movies made, like say back in the '60s and whatnot, they were mostly just a bunch of movies full of friends,
Yeah.
or well, nope, not gonna go there because some people might not agree with that. But essentially, I got a lot of that from this as well, and even the same with a lot of the actors through it. It seems like they got to spend a lot of time with each other. Is what I'm getting at. Like they got time to actually play the characters, become the characters, live in that while on set, and it translated well as far as the acting is concerned.
Yeah. And I think the CGI is a little hokey, but it wasn't terrible. Again, the CGI kind of reminded me a little bit of Sky High, which is, cheaper and CGI, but
It's
it,
20
it, it
years ago though.
yeah, it's kind of appropriate for what this is, though. This is very sort of like, it reminded me a little bit of Once Upon a Time as well.
Oh
If
wow,
if you
wow,
remember that show on
uh huh.
ABC,
I
yeah,
do. It's been a while, but yeah.
yeah, kind of reminded me a little bit of that as well. Where like it's all about the lore and the folklore, and yeah, there is CGI and magic, but you're not really supposed to scrutinize the special effects or anything.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
at the
I
same
think
time,
they
they
did
don't really change the old lore, but they bring it up and utilize it.
great. Right. I think what I will say is, and this is probably an element of the book that that gets fleshed out more, but this idea that the good um, was sort of subtly evil, and
Yeah.
that evil was subtly good was kind of an interesting take on what we would normally consider for a movie like this.
I think that was one of the few parts of this movie that had social implications.
Yeah, I think so. And but they're not current social implications, which is nice
General social,
because
yeah, just general,
exactly. Because
all
that
the way across time.
right, exactly. That doesn't relegate you to a specific period in time. You can this type of idea can be translated for the next 1,000 years.
You
So,
know, it's funny. Yes, exactly with you saying that. It doesn't date the material to where if they don't come out with the second volume, let's call it, of this for say 5, 10 years, even you wouldn't really miss a beat.
no. Because it's totally isolated from all our world
Hmm.
stuff, which is nice because that's what fantasy should be. Fantasy should not be trying to make commentaries about modern life.
How dare you?
Game of Thrones. Uh,
Everything. Uh,
everything. Yeah.
so yeah, some I don't know if we even got through the synopsis board, but
I mean, we're already done with the movie, to be honest.
yeah.
So we don't really need to get too deep into it. But I
I
do,
don't think so.
suffice to say that in Sophie's desire to become a princess, she's sort of led to the path of darkness
By
um,
Rafal.
by Rafal, and we're gonna have to call Chris Hansen on Rafal, everybody, because that was some BS.
Well, they
You can't
don't give her an age,
That's very true, but I am
but he is thousands of
assuming
years old.
exactly, exactly.
And
That
she's for
yeah,
sure not at least 20.
she's for sure not at least 20. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, a little creepy there because at the end it takes a turn where Rafal is like, "You are my true love, and I did all of this for you." And I was like, "Wait, where'd that come from?"
Okay, so I guess if we're there already, that
Yeah.
is where around that time, like that last little, I was
Yes.
confused
Right. It
from,
drug. It lasted way too long.
yeah, it was like the
Yeah.
fall situation all the way to the last situation with Agatha. Huh?
Right.
You could have cut it just a little bit before that, left us dangling from a cliff. Catch us next time on School for Good and Evil. Like, I don't know, but We'll get. Yeah, I don't want to. I have some
Yeah.
questions before I visit. I have no interest in what was going on through this movie because I did.
Mhm.
Um, so from the very beginning, I kind of assumed that what we saw isn't what happened.
What do you mean?
Did you have any thought on that with the fight with the two brothers at the very beginning?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I assumed that whatever we saw wasn't the real thing and that
Okay.
the
Yeah,
evil brother was somehow still alive. And
mhm.
then throughout the movie when Morpheus isn't acknowledging the fact that his twin evil brother is around, he
Yeah,
doesn't even
can't speak
mention
his
it
name.
once. Yeah.
Like, is that what we're doing now? We're Voldemorting him.
Yeah. It
And
was just, it's convenience sake. I think it's because in the book that probably was a much bigger reveal.
I
And you
think
have
in
to
the
do
book
that
it's more
reveal in 2
Beetlejuice esque, where if you say his name X amount of times, he regains power and comes to life. Oh wait, that's still Voldemort. Damn it.
Yeah, that's still, yeah. I think it's just more that it probably took the entire book to reveal that Rafal is at the
Oh,
actual
okay.
headmaster.
Okay,
But since they could only do it in 2 hours, you have to kind of figure that out pretty quick.
that's fair. I
Yeah.
like that the narrator is what they call the Storian, which is a talking pin.
Yeah. Fuck that
Um,
pen.
that also narrates, kills, and writes in nothing but non-blood. Yeah,
It is the pen is a dick, man.
pin's a complete dick.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to see who narrated, but the narrator was funny.
Oh, it was what's her name? She's famous. Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
Kate
funny as
Blanchett.
hell.
Yeah.
That was good. She actually, I'm not. I'm pretty sure she didn't write any of the script for that. If she did, kudos to her. But either way, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Every time she started narrating, I was like, "Oh, this is about to get funnier."
Yeah, there are some funny elements in this. It's actually kind of surprising because you would expect that you would probably roll your eyes, but no, yeah, it's got some good comedic beats for sure.
Right. I am glad also that they jumped us straight into what was going on. We didn't have to spend too much time in Gabaldon in the damn town.
Oh yeah,
Um, Lenora, that's a dope story. We need more on that. I want to know what
right.
happened to Lenora as a kid. How did she
Charlize
become Lady
Theron,
Lesso? Yeah.
right?
How do you go from Lenora of Gabaldon to Lady Lesso? Because um Agatha didn't get a new nickname. Sophie didn't get a new nickname. So how you become Lady Lesso?
Right. And
Yes. Yes, no.
I'm assuming it's because Rafal chose her, and then she got too old, and he Leonardo DiCaprio did.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, I actually have nothing to add, subtract, or say about that because,
Yeah.
yeah, you just if you had the gavel in your hand, you just hit the little bell at the top of the ringer.
Ding
Ah,
ding. Yeah,
get your
because it,
prize.
it it does seem like that's what happened to her. She got taken by Rafal, and she was
Hmm.
going to be the prodigy, and then she got too old for him, and then he moved on.
Which again states that so how are readers actually chosen then? Because it looks like Rafal chose the last two readers you guys brought in. And
Right.
Agatha wasn't chosen. She was more of a stowaway that now that she saw what exists out there, you wasn't gonna let her stay because she would have been snitching. I think that's the only reason they took Agatha, because she would have been snitching.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I knew
But they
something
also
else was
don't
wrong.
have any problem killing kids. So
Not at all. Not a problem. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Wait, I would say that, but let me get to this one. I knew something else was wrong when uh the headmaster's already like, oh, we don't make mistakes. There are no mistakes. You don't even know what was done.
Right.
Like,
It doesn't
oh
matter.
well, the headmaster chooses who comes. If both of them are here, then there's a reason. He didn't choose Agatha.
Right.
And what makes it to where Agatha is more inherently evil in her mind or in anybody's mind, or vice versa for Sophie? How did that come about? Oh, because she's blind and she's a brunette. Word?
It's just a contrivance of their personalities, right? Because Agatha was wearing sort of like
I got a contrivance.
frumpy-ish. Oh, well, maybe.
No, okay,
Um,
no. You know what? That's unfair because this movie did none of that at any point. So I'm
yeah,
just
and
gonna
it
take
totally
that one time
reversed
and
the
let it go.
roles, anyways. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and they reversed the roles of what good and evil were. So yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, but let's talk about the inherent evil of murdering children. So what we found out through this movie is if you fail 3 times in the good school, you are transformed into something for the rest of your lifetime. What is that something? Who knows? So we find out Gregor was transformed into something. He was sent away in pain because he ran away on a third time.
Mhm.
Um, and Agatha, when she goes to the pond, which I actually also want to talk about Sophie's little moment, but Agatha, when she goes to the pond, which is also when she discovers how powerful she really is, she goes to wish for whatever, and she wishes for everyone to go home. And you see something start swirling around her hand in this immense amount of magic, and the teacher, Lady Dovey, whatever,
Mhm.
she's scared and running. Ain't you supposed
Yeah.
to protect your students, bruh?
Yeah. Yeah, this is always a problem in magical schools. The teachers never are really actually protecting the kids.
No, they're
It's
usually
just
the
a good
ones
thing
causing trouble.
that she pulled out a little girl from the lake
Yeah,
because
that
the
had been in
little
there for what,
girl
a
was
thousand years.
granting wishes for some reason.
Because that's what they do. They turn the failure kids. You fail, you
Oh,
get
that
turned
was the
into an animal.
implication.
So that's the thing is,
Interesting.
remember
Okay.
they say that the evil people, they had all types of weapons, but the good, they had the animals. But the
Right.
animals are students that failed, that you transformed into animals, so they have to do your bidding in order to be a part of the magic.
Yeah, they're slaves. Yeah.
And it's not even by choice. Like they, wow. Oh yeah, that's what the word. That's what slaves are, right? You said it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and that's I think what the movie does pretty well is sort of reverse the roles of good
Mhm.
and evil. And not necessarily for evil, because evil is just evil. They just enjoy being evil. And the only reason they turn good is because they finally defend themselves instead of
Right,
attack.
right.
Um, but you could definitely see the veneer of the good and how it was a facade, and
Well, and
how the good school was definitely evil. They were just pretending that they weren't.
right, and even unknowingly. So say like with Professor Dovey, her whole thing is the rules must be followed. The rules must be followed. Well, the rules are actually what worked against the good school. The
Hmm.
rules are whoever attacks is the bad person.
Right.
So if you attacked, then that makes you evil. And I think though that to me was actually really clever. I love the way that was the proof of the point that Agatha was trying to make about, nobody is inherently one or the other. And adding in what everybody else, all the other adults kept saying to the kids, it's about your choices. It's about your choices. It's about your choices. But you guys keep telling her it's about the choices, and she's the only one proving it.
Right.
It was those were some of the confusing things for me. That was like,
Yeah, and they also are very selective about when Agatha can use her powers and when Sophie can use her powers. Um, like Sophie before she takes the blood magic when she's in the forest, she doesn't use powers once,
no.
which is bizarre to me. Um, and that was sort of a little bit contrived because that makes her turn to evil because the prince starts liking Agatha more than
Mhm.
her, and that's a little
And
bit forced, but probably makes more sense in the book.
right. And she got blood magic before she actually got her powers unlocked.
No, she got the blood magic afterwards, but when she got her powers unlocked, she didn't use them.
Hmm.
That's why it feels like that, because she doesn't actually use magic until she gets the blood magic.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
crazy either way.
yeah.
But in training class for Sophie, I did think that was cool, the whole B situation. So first you go
Mm,
through her and Hester. Again, cool name Hester. Also the fact that she is the old hag witch, like basically the strongest witch of all time. Like that's her mom. I thought that was
mhm.
pretty cool. I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty cool and to have her as the I would call her a liaison character. So she comes in where you initially think she's going to be the big bad, but what really happens is her status transfers over to the main character.
mhm.
And so she actually ends up, and that's how I think Sophie actually becomes the hag, the mean hag is she discovers that the reason Hester can't become that is Hester's mom delve into blood magic.
Hmm.
Also, notice all of the black, all of the evil school, they were cool with her using blood magic. They were gonna follow her and be
Oh
her
yeah, they don't care.
lackeys. They didn't. Yeah, they were fine with it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. As long as one of us are more powerful than them.
Blood magic doesn't really mean anything anymore. The best depictor of blood magic I've ever seen was in
True Blood.
Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Ooh,
where Katara learns how to blood bend,
yeah.
and that means that you can manipulate people's bodies.
Which only makes sense.
Yeah.
She can do it.
Mhm. But yeah, no, I think the blood magic thing is more like it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Scarlet Witch's magic. It's just red and it's kind of flowy and you can do whatever you want with it. It's like chaos magic.
Fluid that rises up. That's usually
Yeah.
that. And that's insignia right there that it's gonna get crazy.
Right.
But yeah, so all of the changes is again they're made to happen. Best friend story, Prince Charming story. It's all rolled into one.
Mhm.
But this is a unique story. I can't say that it's not. I like the way it all spins. I like the way some of the things come down. We never really find out who Professor Dovey is, but we do find out that Professor Lesso is Lenore. Um,
Well, this is obviously open for a sequel as well.
for sure.
So we'll probably get more information on those characters later.
Well, and the sequel will be more interesting, I think, now because you have two things. One, we saw how the stories were told when Agatha and Sophie before they went to the school, right? The
Mhm.
stories were basically told where oh, this happened and da 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 da. So it was just a classic good and evil stories. I'm wondering what stories will be told in this upcoming these upcoming tales and how that will translate into the next one that they do.
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, they have a dearth of source material they can work with. So, unless it doesn't get picked up again by Netflix, which I mean, I could see that happening, but it would be kind of a shame because it's unique enough and it's well done enough that, yeah, I'd probably watch the second one.
Yeah, I think
just
so.
just to see if it's
To see
any
where they
good.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, and to finish my thought on Hester and Sophie's battle, to find out who Hester is, to go through that, to see the size of her ability, and they're all pretty much rookies. They're all still
Mhm.
learning. But to see the size of her power, and then for Sophie to overcome that out of fear, which is, again, they're working off of emotion, and that's the thing that makes them more powerful. Makes her not only a formidable foe, but a formidable leader. And I think that's how we saw Hester just fall in line behind her after.
Yeah, I mean, she almost killed her.
Mm-hmm.
So
By accident.
By accident, right? Yeah. Again, the ending kind of falls apart for me. It gets a little bit slow, but I did like the sort of final battle with everybody in the grand hall, and people are going nuts. I thought that was kind of fun, but then it slows way down after that, and it kind of drags a little bit.
Again, I hate to say it, but it slows down mostly with Rafal.
Yeah, it really does. The Rafal thing kind of just takes the wind right out of it.
The whole color, the whole school changing and everything, the ever ball, the never ball, all of that was smooth. All of that went very well.
Yeah.
Rafal slowed us down, and then Evil Loves True Kiss, or True Loves Evil Kiss, or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yes.
Creepy.
Yeah, not cool.
No, and it doesn't make sense. Which made it
no,
less
it really
cool.
doesn't. I guess it probably doesn't make sense because there might be more there might be more character development between Sophie and Rafal that we missed. Yeah.
Okay.
Which might have been creepy too.
Like
just
a couple
considering.
Years, maybe?
Yeah, or just maybe some evening encounters with the two of them or something like that would set them up for. I understand, man. I get it. It's definitely a bizarre take.
There's a couple of hisses going on
because
there.
she's definitely like 15 to 17. right? I mean, you got to assume that they're in high school. They're not in college
That
yet.
is the assumption, but do we want to take the anime route assumption, or do we want to take the American high school assumption? In American high school, TV high school assumption is the American high schooler is 22 freaking years old.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the character themselves is supposed
Yeah.
to be about 15 to 17, I would think.
Mhm.
I mean, but then again, they do live in some weird medieval society, so they probably don't even go to school.
No, I'm sure they don't go to school. That's kind of, and that's
Right.
where I thought about all of this while I was watching it. Like they probably don't go to school, because they live in a fairy tale town. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, just
They
without
might,
any of the
yeah,
magic or fairy tales. Yeah.
they're more like the town that gets saved from the boulder or from the dragon. You know, Hercules saves the town from the boulder. That's their town.
Mhm.
The dragon flies over, and when it's killed, only the nail falls into the middle of the farm field. That's their town. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, that's what I think. That's it.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's pretty much that. You know, Sophie gets resurrected by
Mhm. True
the
love's kiss and tears.
the resurrection of tears, and that's like the tears of the phoenix are supposed to heal.
I was
Um,
yeah, and I thought that's where they were going with it. And then she kissed her, and the narrator said that
it was true
Agatha's
love she kissed.
kiss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
and I
odd,
was like,
but that's fine. They still went with the true the platonic
yeah,
purity of their
I actually
friendship,
like that
which
part.
is
That was
no,
actually
me
one of
too.
my favorite parts of it. Like,
Yeah,
I really thought they were gonna make it this whole like, oh, this whole time it was the love they had for each other that they never discussed, and it was like, no, it was the love of best friends, and I was like,
Mm,
that's power. Like, I like that because there's so many movies that could be that, and they just don't allow it to be.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And there was going to be
Friends is cool, guys.
right. There was going to be a love triangle thing, and they kind of put the kibosh on that as well, which is good.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's what
until the
number
next
2 will
season.
be about.
Yeah, the next one. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. That's because he'll be coming out to their world, and
I think he's
yeah,
pissed that the only way he found a way over is he had to resurrect Rafal again.
yeah. And it seems like
Hence the
Rafal's back.
dagger.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to see maybe at some point if Netflix ever decides to make another one of these.
Yeah, we'll see. We know how that tends to go when it comes to sequels and the flicks.
Mhm.
Also, they go back home. They get to keep their power. Eh?
Yeah, a little cheap, right? Like,
I
come
didn't
on.
care for that. Take their powers. Leave them with all their memories and the knowledge of the world and all of that. I'm fine with that. You don't have the Men in Black phase their brains, but for sure, take the magic back. Don't leave them
Yeah.
with magic in the regular world, in a world that hasn't been introduced to magical people of that nature. Not like that.
Well, especially after since that they were one of them was threatened to be burned because they didn't like witches,
This is a fact.
and now you guys are just openly
Actual witches.
practicing magic. Yeah,
And the other one was trying to take everything over till she realized how bad it was. Like slippery slope.
yeah.
You know, I like Poison Ivy, but I'm not giving her a Tommy gun.
She probably doesn't need it anyways.
I might be the one to get shot. That's all I'm saying.
Right, right. All right. Well, yeah, I think we could just wrap it up here. It could be a short episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? There's, lots of stuff goes on, lots of the fantasy stuff, some cool character designs and monster designs.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of that. I was like, would that be costume or would that be graphics? But yeah, the visually, this movie was actually pretty nice.
Mm.
I'm not sure if my rating is going to reflect any of that. But visually, this movie was pretty nice, and I enjoyed watching it to some level.
Yeah. No, me too. Hey, Corey, thanks for checking us out tonight.
What up, Corey?
I think WOT's Wheel of Time said that when magic users were stilled, it was worse than death. When they were stilled, I wonder what that means.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. Haven't gotten into Wheel of Time, but definitely.
I know there's
have
so
been
much
told.
fantasy.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
fantasy.
there's all of the fantasy stuff has like 20 books attached to it too. Because I know this like School of Good for Good and Evil has like 9 books or 8 books. So
I think when he
they got a
says
lot of
still,
material.
I don't know. I'm sitting here rolling it through my head. I think when he says still, that's like when their powers are made dormant.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, where
I'm like, what
it
would be
would be
worse than death for a magic user taking their power?
yeah, it would definitely be a punishment. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, I get what he's saying. His reference to why our my complaint about them still having their powers. If
mm,
you once they've unlocked that power to take it back from them. Oh, yep, exactly. Thank you,
there you
Corey.
go. Yeah.
Right there with you.
Yeah, he
You're
says they had tasted the power, and then when they get blocked from it, it drives them insane
I
and
could see that
suicidal.
happening.
Yeah,
I could see that. Knowing that
yeah,
this ability is out there and now you don't have it anymore. You know what? That's probably akin to not being able to play basketball anymore. I get it.
yeah. Or being able to do anything that you love, right? Yeah, being
Walk,
able to,
talk, eat.
yeah, all that stuff. Yeah,
Don't break your leg, kids.
don't do it. It's not fun. All right, man. Well, let's do our ratings for this thing. I think that we've
Yes, indeed.
talked about it.
Yes,
Do you want to
indeed.
go first? Do you want me to go first? What do you want
I
to do?
can go first, but by
Okay.
going first, I first must state, looking at this and then going back and looking at my last few ratings, I have been far too generous the last week and a half because I don't think any of our last three movies are better than this.
No, probably not. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
no. Mm-mm.
And I kind of want to give this about that score, which means
Right.
all of those should be lower.
You're gonna have to make a revision at some point. Yeah.
Definitely gonna have to happen. And also because I have to do that, I'm gonna have to go up on this because I just can't do that at this point. I've already done what I've done. Till we have revision time, I'm gonna at least have to be consistent with being generous. And because of that, the generosity is gonna give this a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Like I did enjoy this. Again, visually, I enjoyed watching this movie. It was appeasing to the eye. It had a lot of things going on in the background occasionally that made you interested. Side stories like the Gregor story that like grabs onto you and then makes you more involved with the characters who are attached to that. Um, as well as the vagueness of the origin of both of the characters because that wasn't their origin story. We were watching their origin story for 2 hours.
Mhm.
Um, just being able to play a lot of that through my mind, understand how this was written. Again, even that, this could also be getting the benefit of some of the other writing we've been subjected to lately. The writing on this, I almost would dare say they're fans of the source material.
Yeah, I think that they did pretty darn good.
You know, and that's
Yeah.
again, I don't know the source material, but if I were to discuss this with someone who knows the source material, I don't think they would be too
Well,
disappointed unless
be
this is far
careful.
left story wise. Yeah, unless
Yeah.
this is far left story wise. But what I saw, if I were to be someone who does not know the story and I went and had that discussion with someone who does know the story, I don't think they would hate me for what I know just from watching this.
Mm.
And we know that can happen with someone who's a big fan of a series. So yeah, I'm gonna give this what I say, 7.5. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's honestly too high, but I know what I gave some of this stuff. Like, what was that? Kindred was our last one, and then whatever we watched before that,
Hellraiser,
Hellraiser
Antlers.
and Antlers. Yeah, those three literally because I didn't look at the names, so I looked at my scores, and I'm like, yeah, all of those are definitely under fives.
Yeah.
Hmm? Antlers probably was the highest of those three too. Anyway,
Yeah. Um, pardon me. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty decent. Again, I'm not the target audience for this. This is definitely a younger adult movie. But if you have, like preteen, teenage kids and you wanted to watch it with your family, it'd probably be okay. It's a little bit darker than your Harry Potters, but it's not too over the top. It's enjoyable. It had some funny, upbeat moments. I thought there were comedy beats here that I was surprised about. I think that there's good world design and sort of story design. The nuancing of the concepts of good and evil and sort of turning it on its head was interesting as well. I overall liked the story and liked the characters. I think that Agatha and Sophie were good friends, and I believed their chemistry. I thought they did a great job as well. Lawrence Fishburne definitely phoned it in, and the ending falls apart a little bit. The Rafal thing made it kind of drag a little bit. There's some weird implications with that as well. So all of those things said, I feel like this is it's a solid 6.5, 6.5 for me. I think it's enjoyable. It's not anything that's going to you're going to hate, but I don't think it's any higher than that for me. It's better than average, but not in the upper echelons of things. So
Mm.
6.5.
Uh, Something you said, I didn't know Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie.
Yeah. He didn't either. He just they asked him to do a couple cameos, and yeah, they just pieced it all together.
Not
Yeah,
for sure. So that gives us what, a 7 out of 10?
a 7 out of 10. Yeah,
That's not bad. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
again,
not bad.
not a bad movie. And one word I have not said, and I should have been saying plenty through this review. This was fun.
Yeah,
This was
it's a
actually
fun.
pretty fun. You know,
It's a
and
lighthearted flick.
I would, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Kind of palate cleansing almost.
Yeah,
It's like a little refreshing. Like, oh, there's still fun shit out here. Like, all right, cool.
right.
So
Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. My computer is about to die, and I'm running out the clock before it crashes on me. So we're going to wrap it up here, everybody. We hope that you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thanks to Corey for chatting with us. We appreciate you, Corey. And thank you all for checking in. We hope that you like this episode. Let us know what you think about this School for the Good and Evil, whether you liked it or not. Leave us a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. You can go check out all of our podcasts over at Facebook at Think Ring Talks, where you can get a podcast every week, every day of the week. I would go through the list, but if you know, and you've listened to us many times before, so the spiel is there for you. I just hope that you go check out Facebook at Think Ring Talks, and you'll see all of the shows there, and then you can go choose which ones you like the best. And they all have pages and YouTubes and Spotify's and all of that. So go check that out. And thank you guys so much for listening. And we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks to Keelan. And for Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
and I am Keelan. Thanks a lot, guys.
Good night.